my barometer for are we being successful as a couple is like, do we fight better every year? And he was like, that is sick. And I'm like, maybe. But in my mind, it's like, we've already learned each other now. I know what makes you tick. I know what pisses you off, and you know me. So if I can understand that, I'm either going to use it for malice or I can try and get better. That is part of our self-growth journey. Are we willing to work on ourselves, right? I love the saying, if you point a finger at someone else, you have three pointing back at you. And if we're not willing to look at that, no matter what happens, you're going to take your bag of crap, you're going to go into another relationship, and you're going to bring your bag of crap with you. Hey parents, welcome back to Parenting on Purpose, your podcast for parenting out of the box. I am met with Miss Francine today. Hi Francine, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Well, the first thing I want to say is I love your podcast. If this was available to me when I was a young parent, I can't imagine all of the richness, more of the richness that would have been developed. Every topic is so full of treasures, so many important things. And I love the spiritual, metaphysical kind of umbrella that too. Excellent job. Love all of your podcasts.
Oh, Francine, that is like, thank you. That warms my heart. I love it. You're just such a beacon of light. I appreciate it. It's been such a fun journey for me to go on as well. And as I meet other people like-minded like us and how people are guided and how they want to show up in their life, I get so motivated by that. So I laughed a little bit when you said metaphysical, because you know the saying, like, you got to let your freak flag fly. Like, I just can't help it. That's how I show up in the world. So I love it so much. And I cannot wait to have your perspective today on the show. You were one of my favorite pre-calls. I know we talked for like an hour and we just hung out, and it was so cool. So I'm looking forward to our audience getting to know you and what you do and your story and kind of how that's led to your perspective. So I know you come to us with decades of life coaching in relationships, which is very important in everyone's life. We like to always start the show, Francine, as you probably know, with intentionality. Part of our whole vision on this podcast is how to help parents show up on purpose. So if you could start us off with one thing that you do in your life that helps you show up on purpose, whatever that looks like, I'd love to hear that. And then please introduce yourself.
One of the first practices that I do in the morning, and it is with my husband, because our children now are grown adults, is to connect with him. And we do that through a declaration that we each say together every morning. And a declaration is created every quarter. So that declaration is something that we either want to be, we want to either bring in, we want to manifest. And so I will every morning come down the steps, and he'll meet me at the bottom of the steps, and we say our declaration together, and then we have our coffee together. So that is really setting up the day. And this particular declaration for this quarter is, we inspire peace, abundance, and creativity. And so that really sets up the day. And we notice when we're not doing those things also.
Wow. Okay. I want you to introduce yourself, but this is so cool. I've never had anyone have a co-practice. Like we talk about co-creation, and especially with your partner in life, your spouse, like just a great way to get on the same wavelength. Oh, there's so much wisdom that comes from you. I'm so excited. So how long have you and your sweetheart been together? How long have you been married?
42 years.
Amazing.
And our meeting was a bit on the mystical side. We both felt when we came together that we had known each other in other times. It was very, very visceral. We both felt it. So from the first time we were together, he asked me to marry him after like 3 dates, and really we were together ever since that point. That's a whole other really fun story. And so that I'll leave it there. We met in this very magical, mystical way.
Oh, that's so cool. I just love that. There's so much, like I said, wisdom and just like trust in that. And like at least on our podcast, I'm with whatever each person believes is like true for them. So it's all perfect. And it's like when you have a sense of knowing, right? Whatever that is, science, religion, spirit, whatever that is, like it just allows you that like trust to just say like, this is for the long haul. I feel like my generations, they go through so much mental like baggage that like they overthink everything. So I love the just knowing that you were supposed to be together and just, that's such a cool story. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, back over to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And with regards to the partnership, which is the pinnacle of parenting, because with it, everything comes from your partnership. And so we were both very fortunate to be in partnership throughout our parenting. We have 3 children, and we were very much on the same page pretty much, which is of course an important aspect of parenting, to be together as a team.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
I feel that as you go through your story, you're going to start just knowing who you are. You're going to drop some of those pieces of nuggets and wisdom. And I will just ask for clarification on those as we go, because I think we don't do a great job anymore of really having like I almost said interdimensional. Isn't that hilarious? That too. Intergenerational. We are not great interdimensional beings. Freudian slip. There's never a mistake. Intergenerational understanding and wisdom and learning from that, like how people think and act differently. And that's one of the things that really motivates me about like the family optimization kind of project. Okay. So please introduce, I know like what you do, how you got into where you are, as much as your story, as you feel on your heart you'd like to share. And then we'll just kind of get into life coaching, what you've learned, how that's helped you in your own life, how that's helped you with your clients, all that good stuff.
Sure. I was born in as a seeker. And at about the age of 17, I really started reading and doing, and even going back a little bit more background, my grandfather's brother was a hands-on healer.
Wow.
And that was very much not to be spoken about in the world. It was kind of a family secret. And so I was exposed to this different way of being. Now, I was born into an Italian New York family, raised in a Catholic religion, but yet those constraints, or I shouldn't say constraints, those structures didn't prevent me from expanding out and being that seeker. So my butterfly nature is always looking for, and really started at a young age. So I've always been looking for that. And coming up all the decades, right now, I'm involved with couples coaching couples, or extraordinary relationship in the world and what's possible. A lot of times we live with relationship being something that's, oh, the ball and chain, and it's bad. And it's, there's the comedians out there, they're always going to be saying something bad about relationship. And so we are about what's possible in relationship and always looking for that.
Oh my gosh.
So my story, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Like there's so many different aspects of the story that has gotten me to this point. Should I talk about the way past history or current, or
so? Okay,
maybe
well, I have a selfish interest piqued when you talked about like having this metaphysical kind of tie like through your heritage, and then also being an Italian American, because I'm Italian American, and I
yes,
maybe we're related.
Yes.
So this side of you, like you said, it was your grandfather.
My grandfather's brother.
Okay.
His name was Uncle Nyats.
And this is on the Italian side, or is this a different part?
This is both sides of my family are Italian. Both sides from Sicily, so very much Italian. And my parents are first generation Americans. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm third generation. So that's crazy. So this makes me very happy as an Italian, because it's like Italians do grow up very Catholic, Roman Catholic, and that's awesome, right? There's a lot of structure and trust and things that have come from that. But like to know that there's some like mystic background here, like makes me very happy. So I guess, what did you learn from that, and how is like through your life have you started to like integrate some of that into what you do?
Yes. So I've always been very curious. What, from a really a young age, like just looking and seeing, well, this can't be all that there is, and what's behind. So even in third grade Catholic school, I would sit there while the nun was up at the front of the room, and I'd be like, I was just born in that way.
I'm right there.
For whatever
I'm right
reason.
there with you.
Yeah, and in that place of seeking and looking, and when you raise your hand and you ask, and you don't sometimes even know what you're asking for, the answers, the universe, things start to come in life, and it's about you being present to that, which of course, being present, the key to parenting, of course, is and coaching and being with people and relationship is really the first thing, being present. So I've put together a toolbox of healing modalities over time. Everything interests me. I studied hypnotherapy, and I've done all kinds of different levels of therapy and courses, and I've taken my husband kicking and screaming to a lot of them. And of
Your
course,
husband and my husband could share some stories.
he takes it on, and he goes out in the world and he's doing it, and I'm like on to the next thing, and I'm just like, how come you do, yeah. So
Isn't that amazing? Because they don't have any resistance, so they can apply and they can integrate and they can move on. And
well,
it's part of our work, my darling. It's
yeah,
part of our work.
yeah. Well,
So
you talk
cool.
about no resistance. That took a lot of training
So
to turn the no into a yes. Because
is your husband also Italian?
no, actually, his background is Russian, and mostly Russian, and he was raised Jewish, and
Awesome.
so
Awesome.
our similarities are that we're both the oldest cherished grandchildren in cultural families.
Oh, I love that.
And so we have all these amazing similarities. Like our moms were pregnant with us at the same time, and they worked in the same building in New York. Didn't know each other, of course, because he grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in the Bronx, and we come together 26 years later to find out that we were in utero together. It was, all these kinds of things.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the metaphysical aspect.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to get into your toolbox and the modalities,
Yes.
but I wanted to extend a quick branch or bridge. So obviously I'm also Catholic and grew up that way. My parents were so cool though, because they grew up really under the thumb of that very strict infrastructure. So they were more like, do you want to play football or do you want to go to CCD? And I was like, oh, football sounds good. And they're like, cool, do your thing. But I remember being super young, Francine, and like I would want to go to temple with my my Jewish friends. And then later in life that became I wanted to go to mosque. I wanted to go, like, I was like into these different cultures. And I remember sitting in, I live in Florida, right? So there's a big Jewish population growing when I grew up down here. So the bat mitzvahs and the bar mitzvahs were very big. So I know everyone wanted to go to the party, but like I enjoyed sitting in the actual, and I don't remember the name of it, like the actual ceremony where they like talked through the sermon. And even though it was in Hebrew and I could not understand it, I felt it. I knew what they were saying. So like at a young age, like you, I started to realize like, there's definitely not, at least in my vernacular, right? Everybody has their own opinion. I just think there's many ways to interpret one truth and love, and everyone's, different religions all stemmed from people's understanding of that. And I think that's needed. We all need different perspectives to be mirrors to each other. I'm getting deep, y'all. This is the inner workings of my brain. But I love that you are you seem like you have had the same experience. And that just gives me so much I don't know, it's just like hope. Like I feel like I'm not alone. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Oh, that makes me happy that you and think about how many other people really are, kind of had the same experience, but maybe didn't pursue it, maybe shut it down a little bit. It takes courage to really break out and not be like your friends and not be in the same thinking. And there's something about being, born in a certain way, like, there's that confidence that's there, that to be able to pursue. I also was not I should say I was not under a thumb. My family was very loosey-goosey about religion. And so there was not that, you must.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
Okay, so that's awesome. Okay, so it's, you started to dabble, which I appreciate and I love. And that's part of my own journey. And part of the reason I'm doing this podcast, I think there's so many parents, adults, let me put it this way. There are so many humans on their path of self-discovery. And that means checking out and playing with all these different modalities. And now they are also finding themselves as parents. So I think there's a lot to unpack with what you're saying. It's like we are on our own journey here and our kids are a part of it. And I know there's like this inclination, I know because I feel it, to like need to be the parent. But what I've felt is so much more in service in this time is instead of having to show them what's right or wrong, you just model. And that means that gives you the freedom, Francine, to continue on your journey. And they will watch and they will understand what's for them, what's not for them, versus the paradigm I've always had in my head of parenthood, which is like, I have to show you the box and explain the path. So please walk us through like what you've learned. What have you taken out of these different modalities, how you've applied those in your own life, and then also with your clients through coaching?
What I want to point out, though, in what you just said is you are distinguishing pieces that can really live in a place of not having access to, because when you distinguish something, you get power from it. So your podcast, your speaking, all that's being offered to parents distinguishes some pieces, and some power and freedom get given out. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Oh, thank you for that.
I've always been interested in the workings of the subconscious, and that I think really was what drove me to my courses and learning. So hypnotherapy occurred, and I thought, if I could find out where limiting beliefs live in our subconscious, boy, then I will really, have the source to some power and freedom. So I became a certified hypnotherapist.
Amazing.
And really, I didn't really develop too much of a practice. I you use the word kind of dabbled. I worked with friends and family and some referrals, but didn't have a practice. Really, what I gained from that is being able to create a place where people can go in and listen to their hearts through a relaxing process. I was listening to your hypnotherapist that you had on about with children, and
the gentleman, right?
Yes.
Joseph Drumheller. So amazing.
Yes. And I think he said, children are the place, because adults, there's not many people who can, there's a lot of levels about.
You're a lost cause. That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah. And so just brilliant. So that really became, inside my toolbox. Then I've studied Bach flowers. Bach flowers. Are you familiar with Bach flowers?
Oh,
So are you familiar with homeopathy?
I think so. Yes. Like the use of plants and herbs to.
Homeopathy is really an energetic medicine, and it takes essences from different sources. And it's again energetic. It's contained in a little teeny sugar pill, but the essence goes into your energetic system.
Oh, okay.
So that's homeopathy. And then Bach flowers is kind of a segue off of that, and that is about your emotional system. So Bach flowers will balance your emotional system, and it's very gentle. It was, if you can use Bach flowers for anxiety, for intuition, and it's enhancing. So I learned all that and became certified in that.
This is so cool for me, because this is an education as well as, and I think our parents will find it that way too. Because like there's so much bombarding us right now in the news and the media, and it's like microdosing and plant medicines and all these things, and it's like we have children, like we can't just be like microdosing, like that's not something we can do, right? Or maybe we feel comfortable doing. I just want people to be aware of what's available, right?
That's right. That's what's so amazing, to have this as a source.
Oh, I love it.
So great.
So Bach flowers, I might have butchered that.
Yeah, Bach flowers. So I do custom Bach flower bottles, and that's, for your emotional body and things that you want to, your emotional things that you want to bring in, confidence, their spheres. For children, homeopathy and Bach flowers are miraculous. It's very gentle, energetic medicine. It could never, ever harm. And if people are interested in finding out, just Google Edward Bach, who is the founder of Bach flowers and homeopathy, and you'll find so much on the internet, and people can go that way. Yeah.
Did you, when you had, where your kids were growing up, I'm writing this down, Bach flowers, when you were,
and that's BACH.
Thank you. When your kids were growing up, did you integrate this into their upbringing with like the homeopathy and stuff?
Yes. And my kids would just go to school and be embarrassed with their lunches, because they would go in with an eggplant Parmesan sandwich, and meanwhile they would want, the bologna snack pack. And they were always,
now as adults, they wish someone would make them homemade eggplant.
Yeah.
Come on.
So they were always present to what was possible. So I have 3 children. My oldest is very much, he doesn't really, he doesn't subscribe to a lot of what I subscribe to, but my other 2 are, they're kind of like my sponges. And my daughter, my youngest, she's my best client, my best sponge, and she will do anything with me.
That's awesome.
So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I keep getting on the soapbox. I'm learning a lot. Okay, so you are integrating this to different modalities, and then you started the homeopathy and the Bach flower. I want to say tinctures, but
Yes, that's actually the right word. Yeah. But I think I'd like to talk about something that was really, you mentioned something before about balance and personal growth. And I have a story about that I think would be helpful.
Yes.
Back in I think it was probably like the late 80s, early 90s, there was this place of self-actualization that was actually in the air. I mean, you could go and look at bookstore fronts and there was workshops and there was all kinds of things happening. And my husband and I got involved with the forum. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of the forum. The forum was generated from the S training back in the 70s. S training was very, very about self-actualization. So we got involved with that. And it's about what's possible through transformation, self and the world. Wow. I mean, we got really involved. We had very young children. We were so taken with what was possible to transform the world that we were very imbalanced in our lives. We were having our kids do babysitting so we could go down and volunteer and be part of this work, which was miraculous work. It was just not the right timing in our life. We were young parents. And, of course, this is, hindsight. 2020 hindsight, right? So we do this work, and that is exactly when our life falls apart. Because in this particular work, integrity really becomes available. And the shit hit the fan after we did this work. Everything that wasn't working in our lives became apparent. So we were living way, 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 way above our means. Even though, my husband had a great job, we were always living above our means. And he loses his job. This is after we do all this great work. So he loses his job.
This is fascinating.
And we lose everything. We lose our house. They drive away our cars. Everything: foreclosure, bankruptcy, IRS, all that starts to happen. And so we have three children, 6, 8, and 10. So we're living in a home, and they each have their own bedrooms, and we need to move into a 2-bedroom apartment. And luckily, we were able to stay in the same school district, so we just kind of moved down the block. Now, the 2 little ones, they're in heaven. So they're all living in 1 bedroom.
We love it.
They're like, and our oldest, he's, and as parents, we felt that we shouldn't let them know what was going on. We thought it was too traumatic. So we were Pollyanna on top of what was going on. Isn't this great? But meanwhile, of course, they were feeling everything.
Yeah.
And again, I only say this in hindsight.
This is fascinating. Yeah.
So our oldest had the biggest impact about it. Not that the 2 other ones didn't. And then, through the grace of God and through about 10 years, we were able to come back one step at a time. And that was through partnership and through trust and through, there's so many stories inside of that. We moved to Tucson. The children actually we were living in California at the time. We moved to Tucson because there's another job. The kids grew up in Tucson, which ends up being a great situation. And they end up going all the way to the U of A. And it all ends up wonderful. And it was through our resilience and our commitment to the family. Now, we were going to get divorced. Because it was all his fault. This guy, and who I was I had this committee going on about how bad he was. But I was nice, I was,
of course.
And so this man who is this amazing hero was living under that kind of like really not having me there, because we were looking at this is not working. And the only reason why we didn't get divorced is because we couldn't afford it. One of the ways we were thinking of doing was we would get an apartment and we'd go in and out of the house, because the image of the kids with the suitcases, and especially both of us came from long marriages, and we just couldn't think of that image. Not that doesn't, I'm not saying divorce, I'm not speaking to any of that. I'm just saying our story.
Yep.
We don't end up getting divorced, and we just kind of live together in neutrality. And then I realize who this man is. I have this awakening that he would do anything to take care of the family. Now, what happens for me is I end up going back to work, and I go into corporate, and I'm actually supporting the family, and he loses this job that he takes in Tucson, and I'm just like, this is I'm done here, forget it. And he actually takes a job digging ditches. And what I mean by that, he went to work for a friend who took care of nursing homes, and he literally dug up floors. to earn money.
Like dead body, like put dead bodies in the
No,
ground?
no, no, to remodel.
Oh, all right.
So
Sorry, I'm Italian. You say dig ditch. That's okay.
so we are living in Tucson, and this job's in Phoenix, and he would commute, and I mean, just this really heroic. Now, I didn't look at it at that
then.
time,
Oh,
but then for the really through grace, I got to see who he was. I got to see who I was being, and then from that point, like just all these miracles happened. We met some, yeah. We one of our daughter's friends, she was at a birthday party, and she had this mom who's a real estate agent, and Jenny's like, you please need a house. And, we're renting. We're like, oh my God, we can never tell anybody what's going on for us. And we're like, And she, I have the perfect house for you. And we're thinking, oh my God, we will never, it'll be years before we can get a house. So she goes, come on and see it. So there's this house, and it's just perfect. And again, through miracles and, Steve moving and going back into corporate, and we get a Guido loan. And what I mean by that is we get a more, so because we both have jobs, we're paying a mortgage of 18% to get the house. Nobody knows this because back then they weren't doing the background checks. I mean, really in the real estate, nobody knew. And, it was up to like the last day before we could get the mortgage. So we get the house. And then from that point, everything just starts, we come back and we come back and we come back. And it was miraculous, really, just miraculous. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So awesome. Balance was not there at all. And all of these distinctions that we now have, and, we have available, and we look back and say, oh, if we would have had this, if we would have had that. And that also points to the organization that we're involved with now, which is Couples Coaching Couples.
Yes.
If we had these tools back then, who knows where we've been. Well, we are where we are now anyway, right? So.
And the answer is you're meant to help that path. And that's why you had to go through it.
That's right. So my message is there is always hope if you choose to have hope. Yes. Even in the darkest times, if you will just take the time and listen to the whispers of your heart, your GPS system, your heart is always there for you. Just that we don't want to listen. I don't like that.
I knew there was going to be so much wisdom in this podcast. And there are several things I want to ask you about. But for those of you who know, that was the second Harry Potter reference that Francine mentioned today. So we have Light and Darkness, Dumbledore, direct quote. I'm sure you've never seen Harry Potter, but that just shows you next level 5D vibes you have. Heck yeah.
Well, you know what? I haven't, because I promised my grandson that I would start with him.
Yes, do it.
Yeah.
You know why people like us, like, there's literally a woodpecker outside my house right now, which is crazy. That's so cool. And some would say, like, that's so inconvenient because we're on a podcast, and potentially, but also, how cool is that?
No, it's a message.
Yeah. Message. Okay. I love this. I'm so excited. What you have just shared has been so amazing. I want to unpack a few of these things, and then I want to toss it back over to you because you're an intuit. You're an intuitive. So whatever feels like it should come through, like, that is what this is about today. But we talk a lot on this podcast about the spiral staircase. When you are going through it, the analogy of the spiral staircase is like you start on floor number 1 and you're facing the direction you want to go. When you get off the staircase, eventually on floor 4, 5, 6, 7, you are again facing the direction you want to go. 98% of the time in between those two floors, you are looking a different direction and you are not perceivably on the right direction. That is the analogy. What my 5D brain goes to, and what I feel is there's a vortex, or there's a fulcrum connecting all of those steps. There's something in between that holds them all together, and that is unique to each of us, right? Like, it could be school, it could be this, it could be like education, marriage, like all these different steps we all go through, but the common thread that holds all those together, that's unique to each person. And that, to me, is the personal growth journey we're all on. So as you're going through this, you had to have these really challenging, trying situations as a couple in order to now be in a place to have couples coaching couples, to now understand what that's like. I feel so many parents were on, like, maybe the 20, 30% of those rungs where we just haven't been able to see the commonalities yet that make these all work. And it's so easy to judge, and it's so easy to say the woe is me, and to not have hope, to not choose hope, and to choose to be victimized. And like, that's okay, but that's also a choice. So I love the wisdom in, like, allowing it to play out and leaning in, and then being able to see that there is a common thread that holds all those things together. So that was so cool. And then the thing I wanted you to elaborate on, I guess there was two. And one is like the thought of raising kids and going through all of these challenges. To me, I had so much empathy for you during this story, because it's like that must have been so challenging, where they're looking to you for guidance, and you feel like you have to provide answers, but at the same time you don't know. So I would love for you to elaborate on that in any way that feels right. And then the second thing is obviously the coaching couples, and going through that with your husband. Like you mentioned how something started to shift where you started to see him differently. And I firmly believe that every interaction in our life that's triggering to us, or that makes us feel very very Italian, very like angry or whatever that is, that's a sign, and we're supposed to really go with that. Now some people might choose divorce as the right option. I am not pro or anti, and whatever is in service of the person. And obviously those experiences range vastly, right? So this is not a one size fits all approach, but even if divorce is part of that staircase and journey, there is self work to going through these things. So one, with being a parent and the children, and then two, the relationship with your husband as you went through this, to help you, because you might call it a miracle, but you also know, Francine, that there is miraculous things, but you have to be miraculous for miraculous things to attract to you. You have to resonate at a certain frequency to attract miraculous things. So I want to take the mystic out of that, and people know when you do the work, you are climbing the damn staircase and you're higher. So now you'll attract higher things. All right, beautiful lady, over to you.
One of the first things that came to mind with regards to the children was how to manage the shame and the horror of what was happening from the viewpoint of their lives, from the viewpoint of society.
Right.
And who did we need to be to not have that relayed to them? I believe that we were successful about that because of, in the one way, not being honest and direct and brutal, by being kind of, oh, isn't this great? Like Pollyanna, because sometimes Pollyanna can be really great. So I think that aspect helped them to not.
So for people who don't know what Pollyanna means, basically, because when you first said Pollyanna, I heard something else, which was so out of context. And I was like, wait, what? So you're saying is you had to be almost falsely upbeat and falsely focus on the positives in order for them to focus on that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like really, it really was denial. It was denial of what was happening. And yet I believe that they felt taken care of inside of all of this trauma, all of this stress. I have that sense, and we've had as adults, we've had the conversation.
Yeah. Awesome.
One of the things that we always need, and we didn't realize it at the time, and again, this is the wisdom of the ages, we need relationship. We need reminders. We need other people in our lives to be able to, be our coach, but really to be there as a bowl to hold us when we're going through these terrible things.
Yes.
We have to have that, because we cannot exist alone. Shame, isn't shame like this lonely thing? It's very individual. Once you share your shame with someone who's your friend, or it dissipates. Like they're going to say to you whatever they are, and they'll, it comes off of you. But when we're all alone and individual, we can't get anything done. We need relationship. We can't exist without relationship.
100%. That's beautifully said.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that. Yeah. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah. And then, moving into who my husband was, we have our partners, and we start out in this amazing way of connection and all these things, and we get used to it, and we don't realize that is like a garden that needs to be tended. Relationship is like a garden that needs to be tended to. And you have your garden, you wouldn't think of not pulling out the weeds if you want it to be successful and beautiful, right? So there's always constant attendance to the relationship that needs really a format. We can't let life happen. And as I was able to we both worked really hard at, you did say that about, miraculous, but it was a combination of everything. And, my view is that we are energy beings, and it's our energy that attracts whatever the like energy is. So we were both wanting to heal. We were both wanting to create more. And through step by step by step, we came together, and it was out of my changing my viewpoint of him.
Right.
And you see, men need to be the heroes to their partner, or women, women, I'm not saying gender wise, but one partner has to be the hero, and they have to be known and acknowledged that they're the hero.
Right. This is that divine masculine, divine feminine, and we all have both within us. But it's like providing the forum for them to be to grow into that. I think what makes it so cool is like and you spoke on this in like the honeymoon kind of phase, but when you meet someone, what you feel is like the expansion of your heart so much. And that's what is the initial attraction. It's because you feel for the first time that you are so much more, or you're a part of something so much more and something so much bigger. And that happens when you have your kids too, right? So then as we start to go through life and share life together, that kind of goes away, and we have to continue to give each other something to strive for. And I think we do a great job of highlighting the highlight reel of society, like this is what should look like, or this is what failure is. And it's like it does so much disservice to us, because it takes away the real joy. And that is, it's not always easy, but when it's not easy, is it valuable, right? Are you growing together? And are you growing together well? Like my husband and I, when we were not husband and wife and we were dating, like I always told him, like my barometer for are we being successful as a couple is like, do we fight better every year? And he was like, that is sick. And I'm like, maybe. But in my mind, it's like, we've already learned each other now. I know what makes you tick. I know what pisses you off, and you know me. So if I can understand that, I'm either going to use it for malice, or I can try and get better. So our fighting should maybe dissipate or be more like understanding. And it really has. And it's been so cool to watch, because like that is part of our self-growth journey. Are we willing to work on ourselves, right? I love the saying, if you point a finger at someone else, you have three pointing back at you. And if we're not willing to look at that, no matter what happens, you're going to take your bag of crap, you're going to go into another relationship, and you're going to bring your bag of crap with you.
Exactly. Exactly. And I understood what you meant by fighting better, because I think you meant fighting quicker and just really not even having to have those fights. So it gets better, because we don't really have to have that. We it could be quick, because we realize we want to get back to being connected, because any fight is the disconnection.
Yeah, and that's really it. And I've done extensive research, and I love reading and on psychology, and I'm also into hypnosis. And it's just cool because we crave connection, and then we're also energetic beings. So just like in a thunderstorm, as lightning will connect, like the ions will find the least point of resistance to connect. That we do that physically in conversations and in fighting. Like if the point is to connection, sometimes the quickest path is anger, which is why so many couples go from like anger to passion, right? It's like that one yell away, and then someone touches someone on the back or kisses them, and then they're in the throes of passion again. And that's what we really crave, is that connection. So it's not done in a manipulatory way, but just by understanding it, it's like we both know what we want out of this. So like, can we just get to that part and like do the work and just move on?
Yes. And really, when you think about the ingredient, the cohesive ingredient that's needed throughout everything, parenting, relationship, work, curiosity. Can you be curious every day? Are you curious about your partner? Are you curious about what I can learn today? Are you curious about your child that you think you know? Because when we think we know, it's the booby prize. So curiosity is the jewel. It's the beginning. So then from curiosity comes a communing. These are all the C's, the CCs. Communing. So communing is when you are, with whomever, your child, your husband, and you're in a shared activity, eating something delicious, playing, watching something together. There's this communing that happens, and really nothing can happen unless that's taken place first.
Sure.
Whatever piece of communing. And then after that is creating. Like, what do we create? What can we do? And then, following that is your broader community. So all of those little ingredients make for very rich, extraordinary living.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. I love that. Can you talk to me a little bit about the course that you are working on or working with as couples coaching couples thing?
Oh, sure.
Can you explain the genesis of that and kind of like how it operates and how people can get involved?
Sure. Couples coaching couples, it's fairly small right now. There's about 200 couples that belong, and it's about 30 years old. And it began with one couple who were both going for their advanced degrees, and they were really having a very hard time managing that. And they decided to ask another couple to be their coaches during this process. And through that, this couples coaching couples formed. Now, the background of that was a series of distinctions, and for them to get through it and through coaching, that is how the whole thing was seeded. What exists now are about 17 local circles.
Cool.
that are physical around the country, and each circle has up to about 12 couples in it. And there's also virtual circles. There's 3 virtual circles. And the circles are kind of their own small community. And the circles meet once a quarter. And during that quarter, you are matched up with another couple in the circle. And there's a formatted way of meeting weekly with this other couple. It's about an hour every week. And in that hour, you are spending time really relishing your relationship. Like, what was really great this week? What's happening? How are our projects going? And then also, if there's any breakdowns, anything that needs the reconnection back to couple. It's for healthy couples, and it's not therapy, but there's something in the community of having another couple be for your couple that is amazing. The other thing that happens is what I started with in my practice is every quarter a new declaration is created. So your couple looks at, well, what do we want this quarter? Do we want to bring in something? Do we want to be something? Do we want to be contribution? So there's, it's just a wide range. And then that other couple that's with you for the quarter is a stand for that. They are for you having a great couple, having your couple be extraordinary.
That's cool. Thank you for explaining that. That reminded me of something you said earlier, and I think this is a great place to bring it up. We're like, depending on where you are in your life, I think it's very common to reach this place where you have to come to terms of, like, if you want more in any facet of your life, I feel like it's so helpful to have coaches or courses or books or for whatever to help you understand what is possible. Again, to have that fun curiosity in life, and then to go forward to learn the tactics and tips and tricks. Like, I love learning, and I know now we live in a society where information is so readily available that there's actually a joke that like self-help or like education has just become like entertainment 2.0, where we're taking in information, but we're not doing anything with the information.
Yes.
And so that's why I find coaching so helpful. Like you've mentioned, like the couples coaching couples, therapist, hypnotherapist, different courses that you were a part of in life. And I know it always adds a level of work, but I think people shy away from these things sometimes because I think it makes them feel like they're not good enough without it, or like it makes them feel less. And so I wanted to bring that up because even me, who's someone who loves learning, there are times where I'll look at a coaching program and I'm like, oh, like, do I need this to succeed? And obviously you can't do everything, but I think it's imperative to look at Like, no, you don't need anything. You are already perfect. So if that crosses your mind, the answer is no, you don't need it. But if it's still feeling, you still feel it in your heart that it will add value to you, I just hope you have the awareness, and it's not necessarily you, Francine, but just all of us, the
Mhm.
awareness that there's something within you that wants to be birthed, that wants to have life breathed into it, and that has value to add to your kids, your spouse, your community, your church, your carpool group, your soccer team, whatever that is. So know why you don't need it. I think it's so important to honor yourself, and you are deserving of it. You are worth it. I think people shy away, and I just wanted to bring that up because I find courses and coaching so helpful as long as you are using it as a modality to look at yourself as a mirror and then to like apply the work. Because any, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a course, whether it's a sports team, these are all opportunities for us to get better. If you approach life like you said, curiously, and you just play, everything's a game. It's like what happens. My son was playing Magna tiles the other day, and he's like in love with stamps. So he'll put stamps in each level of his tiles, and then when it smashes down, he realizes I built it too far to the left. I need a counterbalance. He's 3, so he doesn't say these things, but I'm watching his brain. So now he builds it with more Magna tiles on one side, so it's more even. Like, it's just like that, but for adults. Like, we realize by going into these courses and playing that we have some mental stuff that we need to get rid of, or that we tend to do this in our relationships. And now we have the understanding to kind of play with that and to go a different direction. So I think as parents, we just get way too hard on ourselves, and we get way too serious, and we just need to take a step back and like have fun in life and like approach it with that fun joy and just play the same way kids play. Just have fun with it, right? But
Oh,
that was
yeah.
awesome. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, balance is really the key. And we don't know that we don't know. You see,
For
we
sure.
and so that's if we're connected in, and there's just that voice that's saying, check this out, check this out. You follow that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so in your practice with coaching, are you you said you have a specificity with relationships. So what are like one or two of the tips that you use in your practice to help people kind of uncover where they are? And then how do you help them kind of make maybe amends where they are to help them start to grow from that place? What are some tips or tricks you could recommend?
One of the practices is something called emptying the well.
Okay.
So we have this well that develops between us, and it gets filled, and we need to be cognizant to be emptying all the time. Sometimes that well gets a little bit filled up, and it's really hard to manage getting that cleared out.
Yes.
And then if it really gets filled up, resignation and everything becomes hopeless.
Yeah.
So if the first part is, when I work with a couple, is to really look and see what's in the way of you being a couple.
Mm,
Now, is there anything that you need to apologize for? Is there anything that you would like your partner to apologize for? And then that takes place.
awesome.
And there's a deep listening that happens. It's not up to me as a facilitator to offer anything about what's being said. It's just the opportunity to let it go, and to have the couple be back together in connection.
Wow.
And then from there, there's a lot of places that you can go. One of the things that we look at is habits. We have so many habits. We have thought habits. We have physical habits, emotional habits, all kinds of habits. And we can look at structuring things, and look at what is couple well-being, what's well-being for our couple, and what are the habits that can contribute to that. There's also looking at dances. So we have these dances that happen as couples. A dance is one person says one thing, the next person says another thing, the other person says something, and off to the races, and you're in a very familiar dance
Yeah.
of discord, of disconnection. So it's a dance. So we really look and discover those dances, and then we make a name to it. We make a funny name,
Yeah.
because the whole commitment is to be connected and be a couple.
Yeah.
That's the commitment. And disconnection happens, but how long do you want to be disconnected for? You want it to be 5 minutes, or you want to, have it be a week? So all of these tools help to bring back connection quickly. So when you have your couple dance and you have a silly name that you've both decided on, and one person will take responsibility and call out the name zucchini, it's an alert. Oh, I'm going down that path to that dance. There's no cheese down that hole, right? So you could stop it right then and there, and come back.
Yeah.
Just come back from the dance and have a discussion, as opposed to all the, the angst that gets involved. Yeah. Couple driving. Oh my gosh. Couple in car. Think about that. How, I don't know, a lot of couples have that kind of, when the other person's driving.
Yeah.
So,
it's fun. Power struggle.
It's really about finding out what it is that a couple wants, and basically what people want is to be related and get back into connection.
That's so the parenthood as well as relationships. Like sometimes we're so well-meaning, but I feel like the more we interject and the more that we have to show up, like out of like, maybe we're out of alignment with the right energy, but we just show up and we make things so much worse. I found that in my own life. It's like, if I really dial back what my kids are doing, my 15-year-old is an amazing example of this, because she's a young woman. So she is, doing, in her mindset, she's doing her best to please us and live in accordance with her values, which are very much mirroring our values, because she lives under our house. And if I don't think it's done perfectly, or if it's not done the right, exactly in accordance with my brain, it's very easy to tell her she's not doing it correctly. But what I learned the most from is parenting myself and pausing and bringing it back to first principles and thinking she is literally doing the best she can. And she's trying to, like I said, live in accordance. And I see the same thing with our spouses. Like if my husband and I disagree on something, and there's like the initial, I as a human am not getting what I want. There's a need that's not met. But if you can like give it a little bit of space and you can dial it back, it's like he is operating out of the same principles, and he is just trying to protect our family, make sure that we're going, we're all taken care of, that he's making responsible decisions. We're all operating out of a place of togetherness, even when we feel separate. And, that's a part of the whole emotional quotient, and not just getting triggered and jumping right into like anger, and then kind of just stepping back and understanding. So now you have a different approach to it. We're all walking the same path together, and we're trying to get to the same result, which is the connection of the family. So that's so cool to hear some of the tools on how to do it, because even in great relationships, like I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about like, if someone asks you like, how's your marriage? And you say great, like they know you have a crappy marriage. And I thought that was so funny, because like, I do consider we have an amazing marriage. My husband is my best friend, and I love doing life with him. But it doesn't mean that it's void of self-reflection and work, but I think that's what makes it worthwhile. But I guess I'm one of those weird masochistic people who take on challenges just to learn from them. So I guess that's an individual thing.
And thank God that you do, because through that, it you spread it all out. So it's really great. Yeah.
Oh, well, I love the work you do. We have not actually had a coach on yet that does specific like relationships and marriages. So I'm really grateful for this. One of my favorite parts of this journey has been when people reach out to me and they say, I connected with this person through your podcast, and this person and I started this project together, or I needed help with X and I reached out to this speaker and now Y has happened. Like, that is why I do this. It's like, I saw something the other day, and I think you'll appreciate this. Appreciation. When we say to appreciate something, there's like that's one of those, has two meanings. It's really one meaning, but our society has led it to be, something different. When I say I appreciate you, it means I value you. I give you gratitude, and like I'm putting energy into looking specifically at the things about you that make me feel good and happy. Now, when you think of it from a financial standpoint, when something appreciates, it rises in value. And I started to look at that in the relationship context. When you appreciate your spouse, This is what happened with you and your husband. When you appreciate your spouse, you are raising their value. And that's a you thing, not a them thing. So you don't need
Exactly.
them to do anything differently. You change how you show up to the conversation. Same thing with your kids. If your kid's upsetting you, start to appreciate them in other ways that are easy, and then they will raise in value. And then when you're at the right place, you can start to look at those other things, and you'll probably have a very different perspective around them.
Mhm,
But I
mhm.
love that. I thought that was so cool.
That is exactly one of the most important aspects of relationship is appreciation and acknowledgement, and really to have it be done on a regular basis in relationship, in parenting. That everything you just said is the key. It really is.
It's such a mind, it's such a self practice, right? Like I always joke, whether you're a God person, a universe person, a science person, whoever the thing, whatever is the entity that is governing how things work out here on this ball hurling through space, like it is hilarious. I think they are playing the funnest joke on us of all. Like, like what's the secret to human happiness? Where can we hide it that humans will never find it? How about we hide it inside them? Because nobody ever takes the time to look in there. I just find it as such a funny practice. But if you do take the time, there's a lot of gold in there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that we're here to express joy and be joy. I mean, we really, and it's been this mistake about many levels of that, but we're really here to do that.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, you are so fun. Like I could talk to you for hours about mystical things and just
Yeah,
like, all of that.
absolutely.
Well, I hope we get to share space again. I am interested in the couples coaching couples. So I'll reach out to you offline about that because
Sure.
I think I'm a big fan of, I just saw something today. When you buy something, whether it's a suit or a dress or a coaching program, you're not buying the thing, what they're selling. You're buying a better version of yourself. And when I say buying, that does physically mean exchanging money, but what it more means is you're putting your resources into something. And I think we often just think of resources as money, but there's other resources that readily come to us, and that's time and energy. So buying into something is a great way of saying that. Like you're putting your mental efforts into that thing. And where your focus goes, your energy flows, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So we are seeing the next versions of ourselves as a couple coming out, and I am choosing to invest in those type of things. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. For our listeners, though, can you please tell them, Francine, where they can find you if they're interested in investing in themselves through relationships? That would be awesome.
Yes. My email is intervalsofgrace@gmail.com. And I will be having 2 different podcasts come out. They're under construction in the next couple of months, and also a website down the road. So that's there. I want to leave with one thing, though, that I wanted to mention before.
Please.
Doing a family declaration is an amazing thing.
Yes.
Kids love it. And you sit down and you do the declaration process together. I can talk to you about that another time. And
Yes.
the kids are involved and they love it, saying it every morning at breakfast.
I thank you so much for saying that. Like, I love that you said that. We're working on a project, and eventually we'll put out a YouTube video on it where we're going through our family missions, visions, and like values. And that is all part of it. I want the kids to feel like they are a part of growing this unit and what it means to be in our family. And I love that you just said that. So that's fantastic. Let's please talk about that. I would definitely love to make a video for
Yeah.
people with that practice. And that's awesome. So good. And please let me know when the podcasts come out because I want to personally listen and learn from you. I think you have such amazing wisdom to share. So thank you, Francine, for taking the time to be on our podcast. I did want to mention the art behind you. I love it. It's awesome. And I don't know why it reminds me of like floating graduation caps. Like I just think like you're
Oh,
matriculating to the next level. You're just like,
that's so great. I love that. Or
"Ah,
little
it's so cool."
universes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
what it reminds me of. Um, and I say graduation caps, that must more look like the Harry Potter graduation caps, but obviously that's my cup of tea. literally tea. So it was so great, Francine. Thank you for being here. You're wonderful parents. This has always been a great time. I'm literally taking what you guys are asking for, and I'm finding these people, and they're finding us, and it's so fun. So keep the emails coming, keep the DMs coming. I'm here to help in any way we can. And until the next perfect time, you guys stay beautiful and stay inspired. You're doing awesome
Thank you.
work. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.